I also wanted to pick up on something that PT said when you were saying that a lot of the arousal comes from the transgressive nature of any particular act. It's something I think about a lot, actually, of the more that we do try to normalize talk about sex and normalize sex acts and make them not so taboo, that almost feels like it robs some certain sex acts of that transgressive nature. It's like, there's certain things that feel good because they are going against the grain of what's expected, or that they are emasculating. And suddenly, if it's normal to do a certain thing, well, then it's no fun anymore. And I'm curious about, almost like, is normalizing sex talk too much, doing it a disservice? I'd like to think that it's not, but like it seems like there's a balance or a gray area there. Kevin, you're nodding.
Yeah, well, I feel like when it comes to kinky stuff, a lot of people like, because I knew I was gay when I was a little kid, my whole life is about shame and, oh my gosh, I'm in a closet. Oh my gosh, what can I share to people and feel more normal? So that's why my podcast Risk is all about come out about anything, right? But also, yes, I have been in kink situations, at kink events before, where people are like, please, let's enough with the normalization of things. Let's not have like a pride parade for kinkiness. I remember once Dan Savage, the sex columnist, was being asked by someone about scat play, about like poop and all that sort of thing, and he reacted with some language that offended someone. Someone was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you spoke of that as if it's nasty and filthy and all that sort of thing. And Dan kind of rolled his eyes and he was like, it would lose all its power if it wasn't nasty and filthy. Come on. So he was kind of acknowledging that thing of, yeah, it is really a tug of war between, you want to be able to talk about it, these things, the way we're talking now, so that enough people out there feel like, oh, I can explore that. That's not just something in my imagination, but I can actually try it and not feel ashamed of it. But at the same time, you don't want to normalize it to the extent that it becomes passé,
Mm-hmm.
As a gay man, you as basically a heterosexual man, young heterosexual men have a fairly narrow avenue of what is okay. So a young heterosexual man can do all sorts of sexual activities, from as innocent as leaving the lights on in the bedroom becomes a little kinky,
right.
Having your girlfriend jack you off is a little kinky for a mainstream heterosexual man. But for a gay man, especially a gay man in New York City or in the bushes in Prague, you need to go quite a distance to do anything that's unusual, because you're already way on the edge.
Yeah.
So some of the things, Kevin, that you're talking about, like poop, pee, they're nowhere in the retinue of a kinky heterosexual man. They don't need, what you do, Kelly, is probably far more attainable for normal, quote unquote, whatever, heterosexual men to get a little kinky. I would imagine, Kevin, a lot of what you engage in is way beyond the pale.
Well, I also feel like kink is a little bit of a Pandora's box. The first time I went to a big kink event, it was a kink camp, where it was like 4 days of kinky adventures in the woods. A friend of mine there at the camp said, oh, you're new to all this stuff? Be careful, because you're opening a Pandora's box. I think a lot of people avoid exploring some of their kinky fantasies in their head because they're afraid, oh, wait, might I really like that? And if I like that, then what? You know what I mean? And I think that my own adventures in sexuality and kink over the decades have indeed been like that, have been like, oh, okay, what can I try now?
I think there is that, at least in the realm of comedy, it's been played for comedy that, yeah, if I try some kink, then eventually I'm just going to have to ramp that up until I'm doing something that isn't even sexual anymore in order to even get off a little bit. And I feel like that's exaggerated, obviously, for comedy purposes, but a lot of people put stock in that idea when it probably doesn't play out like that in real life. I'm not speaking from personal experience. But is that what I'm hearing from you, Kevin?
Oh, I think that when people start to identify as kinky, um, they're just bound to meet people who are into this or have tried that, and they're just bound to start trying more and more things. I, I definitely find that you, because of who you are psychologically and just biologically, you're going to explore kinky stuff that you're like, I don't need to try that again. That did not light up my buttons. You know what I mean? So I don't worry so much about that. I don't worry that my kinks are going to become so, abstract and bizarre and, that they're unexplainable. Um, but I do think that it's possible to, the more adventurous you are, to start becoming a kinkier and kinkier person, to start to be turned on by things where you're like, wow, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have guessed I'd be into this,